Hello everyone and welcome to the first Offworld Kings. I'm your host, Vilafanic. Joining me today is Terror Incognita.
Hello everyone. It's good to be here.
For our first matchup, we have Zorbaz versus Tudback, our challengers in this best of one winner-take-all format.
Yep, we absolutely do. You might recall, if you've been watching Offworld a while, you might recall a 1v1 between these two players before. They have a little bit of history. It was the famous 220,000 auction game. Yeah, it was an interesting game. Both players going 3 steel mills at the start, not being able to upgrade to HQ2. They stayed on HQ1 for ages and ages and ages, and then eventually that auction happened, which I think from memory Zorbaz took, but because he took it, his stock price tanked and 2D-Bat was able to win the game. So we will see if the same thing happens again. I suspect it probably won't, but it would be entertaining if it did.
Right, so before we start, Offworld Kings is a unfair tournament hybrid. It is a best of one in the random location across Mars, Ceres, or Io. The winner stays on, the loser is out, and then a new challenger will appear. So let's get started with this first game.
Okay, game number 1. I think we're ready to go. Launching now. We'll see where we are. It is a random location.
Yes, 100% random.
So it's the same proportions as the ranked queue, so 50% Mars, 25% for the 2 other locations. We will see what we get in just a moment.
Ceres.
We have a Ceres map.
Oh, this should be fun. What do we have here going on? We got expansive robots, nomads, and scavengers.
Well, there's one thing immediately that points you, I think, away from either the robots or the nomad. Look at the price of electronics. $200 electronics and $40 glass. So I think that might be the reason we see either a scavenger, there's a very good scavenger in the east, or we see an expansive.
No nukes, so that definitely says scavenger's good, and then the second best is probably, like you said, expansive. So we do have Tudback taking that scavenger spot first for 22k debt.
Yep, certainly the best found on the map. I think that is a bargain for 2D-Back. He's got all of the carbon there. He's got to have to go a little way to get his aluminum, but aluminum is a little bit awkward in general. But 2D-Back going for the robot, which is a really interesting decision. He's going to have to find... Zorbaz going for the robot, which is a really interesting decision. He's going to have to find a lot of money to pay for those electronics. I don't know where that money particularly is going to come
Yeah, I almost would have preferred a nomad instead of a robot, because at least with the nomad you can buy, there's some good silicon, we can find it here.
The black market is online.
Yeah, then again with the nomad you don't get
then you found next to that really high water, and you use that $45 water to purchase your electronics. Zorbaz isn't near any water, but he got up to HQ2 anyway.
Yeah, he's got 2 low waters to play with, which isn't completely insignificant, but I don't think water's going to be a problem for a while, honestly. That's probably the highest water's going to get for the time being, because everything that water makes is also very low. Food is $43, fuel $29 right now, so not very much money to be made in life support.
Nope, not very much money made in life support at all. Other than water.
Is open for business.
Water is the best bet, followed by electronics and then chems. Looking at the price board over here on the left, if you're not going for raw resources, Zorbaz lobbing up a little bit and is punished for it.
Yep, he's a robot, so is incentivized to blob up, as you said, and yeah, the EMP coming straight down from Tudback, which you would expect by now. Tudback, a very experienced 1v1 player, as is Zorbaz, but Zorbaz not quite able to be as aggressive on the black market. He does get the EMP in response, but again, only knocking out 2 of 2D-Back's tiles, while 2D-Back got a lot more of Zorbaz.
Yeah, and it's questionable as to whether those are the best tiles to knock out anyway. I mean, it's roughly the same amount. If Zorbaz was up into carbon, then it would be good to freeze those, but he's not buying into carbon.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like, there's a general lack of money to be made right now, certainly for 2D-Back, because...
That is plenty of carbon anyway, so this isn't going to hurt him in the short term.
He's got plenty of carbon, but I mean, the chem refinery, what you EMP had said, the chem refinery is not very good, the water pump not very good by itself, the aluminum, no, you're not going to do that, so I think it was as good a target as any other, but maybe that money could have been better spent elsewhere, maybe like pirates on the water or something even might have been slightly better, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, not really good because 2D-Back did defend himself well from the EMP by splitting up his production, unlike Zorbaz. You can just see here, it's a perfect example of why you want to do that, especially in a 1v1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question is, Zorbaz needs to get to HQ3, and somehow needs to come up with 8.6k worth of electronics.
Yeah, and this was always going to be the issue, wasn't it? He can't make electronics. There's no way he can do that. So, I mean, he might just have to sell all of his steel down and buy his electronics using that. It's really, really painful for him, though.
Going into a single gooned nuclear plant. Someone down uranium to next to nothing. Power's 105, but that single plant's only going to produce 1.5 power, so he's going to be a little bit more, so he's going to be even.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing he can do, really, is sell his steel. That's the only way he's going to make, pretty much ever. That's the only way he's going to make the money he needs for his electronic. And if you sell all his steel down now, he gets 5,500, which is most of what he needs for that electronics, but it's just so painful. Like, it's really difficult to see how he's going to get out of this HQ level quickly.
And this is where 2D-Back needs to use his cooldown and hit Zorbaz while he's down. Just make sure that Zorbaz can't get up to HQ3 anytime soon. Get an EMP, put it on those steel mills, go very aggressive. If those steel mills are offline, Zorbaz isn't upgrading.
I think the steel is where it's at right now for Zorbaz. That's pretty much the only thing that's making him any money at all. The nuclear plant is chewing through his debt, but that's pretty much it. It's all about steel right now, and he is selling all of it down. He's selling as much down as he can now that he's got his 160, but he's still absolutely nowhere near the upgrade.
2D-Back went for a goon squad instead, which I think was a little bit of a mistake because you know that your opponent doesn't have a lot of cash to get to the upgrade.
Yep, I think that was certainly a mistake. What did he end up gooning? He's just sitting on it right now, so yeah, I think certainly a mistake. I think you really need to be staying aggressive in this sort of situation. Steel, though, is being sold down continually. He's almost, it's so painful, he's almost at the upgrade. Just needs to sell down a little bit more steel and maybe that water that he's got stockpiled as well. It's just so difficult to see him coming back because he's got to find 60 more electronics to get to HQ4.
Yeah, well, he does get up to HQ3, and as Rahi points out in chat, there is a path forward to make money. Teleportation into some good water, into fuel.
Well, it doesn't even need to be good water. He's got 2 low water next to him. So, I mean, that's going to be good enough just to get a couple of fuel reactors down, or even some food. I mean, 2D-Back's making food, so yeah, reactors are definitely better. But there is a way to do that. He did get the teleportation auction as well, and he is going to go for at least one of those water tiles. So we'll see what he decides to do now.
2D-Back's going into third water, which after upgrading HQ4, which to me seems like he's planning on going into fuel, and he has to here come up the electrolysis reactors, just chasing the highest amount of profits on the board as far as production goes.
Yep, and Zorbaz putting down another nuclear plant, which I can't really agree with. Its power is really not doing very much right now. 2D-Back is just about covering his power cost. Zorbaz in a big surplus, and I don't think there's any demand at all. In fact, there's 0.1 supply coming from the colony, so no demand at all, which means that power is going to crash very, very quickly indeed.
Right, yeah, Zorbaz removed his own demand by getting teleportation. Yeah, decided to go into the 2 lows with teleportation instead of going for the single high a little bit further to the left, which would have been a little bit better, as Zorbaz recognizes in chat. Using some EMPs on Tudbek on those good electrolysis reactors, which is a good idea, but it might be at this point too little too late.
Yeah, well, he's not making his own either, so he's claimed those water tiles, but isn't doing anything with the water. Water by itself is not valuable. He really needs to make something with the water that he's got. Maybe even replacing some of those steel mills might be okay. But instead, all he's doing is shutting down Tudbak's profits and spending a pretty penny doing it as well. So really, again, really difficult to see. He's still got to find, remember, those 60 electronics for $15,000, which yeah, he's going into those electrolysis reactors now. So maybe he heard me, and he's going to make a little bit of money from that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, eventually, if you're paying attention to prices at all, you're going to realize that the electrolysis reactors are 124 per individual building. And with the adjacency bonus, that bumps it up to 189 each. That's more than anything else that Zorbaz has on the board. Unfortunately, Feedback has the black market back online. Yep. EMPs only cost 7k. There we go.
Even got a spy on the electrolysis reactors to make sure there wasn't a very, very sneaky goon from Zorbaz down on it, and does shut those down very, very quickly indeed. So Tudbak going to be making a lot of money now. Zorbaz would need to spend $10,000 on an EMP if he chose to do that. It might still be worth it to do that, but it means that it's really going to be difficult for him to get the upgrade anytime soon.
Well, buying the EMP and putting it on Tudbak's electrolysis reactors means that Tudbak may not have the cash to purchase out Zorbaz in the near future. So, yeah, like you said, might be worth it, even though it's going to delay you further.
Yeah, I mean, all it's doing is stalling, and the long-term advantages, or at least the medium-term advantages, are going to go to Tudbak here, because he is that HQ upgrade ahead. He's got so many more options in terms of his basic production. So you would think that he would be in a better position. He's got hacker array down as well now, so we'll see what he's going to be planning to do with that hacker array once he gets the HQ5 upgrade, which he just has. So again, Tudbak with a big lead in terms of production and production potential right now, going into glass as well. And you would think that there would be very few ways back for Zorbaz in this game.
Yeah, very few. When you are 2 HQs behind, you still need 20k worth of electronics. You have 26 stored up, but a lot of that's your aluminum, which is very high price, and your steel. So you sell that to get the electronics, and then what are you going to do? Just sit there.
Yeah. Well, I think selling the aluminum is fine now, because he does not have any worry from Tudbak in terms of him upgrading, so that aluminum is not particularly going to be in very high demand in the near future. But yeah, on the other hand, he's still going to be short in terms of the electronics.
Tudbak
now,
the EMP defense on the optimization center.
This is interesting, isn't it? He's got a spy down. Zorbaz has a spy down on Tudbak's hacker array, which means that he's going into that glass knowing that Tudbak is going to be shorting the glass. So I wonder if he is going to be able to use this to get back into the game and maybe just bleed Tudbak of a little bit of that money that he's going to be making from that hacker array by selling down at the right time. We will see.
Blue says that he hates that remote advanced buildings is a thing. Well, the one good side of the remote advanced buildings is if you put a hologram on it, it still looks like the building that it is. So they can still be remote, but you're not going to have, a remote off-world pretending to be a silicon mine or something like Quarry or something like that.
So Zorbaz gets the HQ4 upgrade, which means that he has a few more options now going into that uranium mine just to the west. And here comes the shortage on glass.
Who's going to get the money out of it? How long do you wait if you're Zorbaz?
I think you have to take a risk a little bit. I mean, Tudbak does have a lot of glass now. He's been making it for the last while. He's had a triangle for a while as well. So he is going to profit a lot from this, pretty much regardless of what Zorbaz does. It's going to be a momentary dip in the price when Zorbaz sells out, I would think, but that's all it's going to be.
Zorbaz should sell right about now, I would say, because he knows that Tudbak has a lot of glass from that triangle.
Oh dear, that was a mutiny goon from Tudbak on the nuclear part. I'm not sure about that. That seems a big investment there in terms of what Tudbak paid to do that and the benefit that he got from it, which wasn't enormous. But he got a free mutiny out of it, so kudos.
Zorbaz did get the money out of the hack before Tudbak delayed it far longer than I would have liked.
Yeah, I guess both players forgot about it. It looked like it. There is another hack coming in though for Tudbak, so this one is uncontested. Tudbak is just going to continue making money from this glass price, and it's going to keep going up and up and up.
To answer your question from chat, advanced buildings cannot be placed away from the HQ. What Tudbak did was put out claims over here, 2 claims, built the building, and then returned the claims. So it was technically next to the HQ when it started being constructed. Technically.
Sneaky.
And as we know, technically correct is the best kind of correct.
Yep, very sneaky indeed. There's another EMP from Zorbaz, and again, just the timing on these EMPs. These buildings from Tudbak, I mean, the glass is making a huge amount of money, but it was actually centered on the farm, that EMP, so interesting target selection there. Certainly you want to be shutting that glass down rather than the food, just because it's making a ton more money.
Price manipulations to begin shortly.
In comes the chemical hacks. Zorbaz completely unprepared for that, despite having the hacker race spied out.
Yep, didn't seem to know about it, did he? He's got a few chems now, but again, that's not really going to make any sort of a dent at all in Tudbak's profits here.
The hacks on chems keep on coming.
It's a little bit of an awkward hack because he's using some of those chems to optimize, but still, I mean, it's certainly worth it from Tudbak's perspective. He's making a ton of money now. And you can see his cash and resources ticking up all the way to close to $200,000, which, well, I mean, it's enough for him to buy out Zorbaz right now if Zorbaz doesn't defend himself. Zorbaz is, of course, going to defend himself if Tudbak starts buying into him, but still, he's not too far away from a full buyout. Needs another couple of $100,000 to get that done.
Yeah, the fat lady's all but sung in this game, so we're just going to wait for the inevitable to happen. At this point, it's hard to see Tudbak making any huge mistakes that would lose him over $100,000, which is what would need to happen for Zorbaz to have a chance at winning.
Yeah, Zorbaz quite some way behind Tudbak. Going to buy the rest of Zorbaz's stock. I would imagine Zorbaz still not HQ5, of course, so he's not able to make as much money as Tudbak is.
At 68k to get the upgrade to HQ5, only 25k in the bank. We could sell that one share in Tudbak to get another 36k, which would put him just below the required amount. Gets the upgrade, which at this point, I mean, is a sort of Hail Mary move that you need to make anyway to have a remotely possible chance at winning.
The black market is
and just the lack of claims for one thing, but the lack of advanced buildings as well for Zorbaz. It's just not really been his game. He's not really ever been in a position where he's able to challenge Tudbak's production and keep up with the scavenger. And I think a lot of that honestly does go back to the Found. I think just the ease with which Tudbak was able to upgrade with the low glass price compared to the high electronics price. Scavenger in 1v1 is of course excellent anyway, and this was a pretty good scavenger found on Ceres where scavengers are particularly strong. So I think probably the game was swung in Tudbak's favor on found with his 22,000 of debt that he founded with, and I think that played a pretty large part in winning him this game.
Tudbak with an interesting way of trash talking the opponent, recommending YouTube videos to watch.
Yeah, I think both players kind of realize exactly what is up with this game.
Yes.
It's going to be really difficult for anyone to change the outcome now.
I suppose we did not mention beforehand that in Offworld Kings it is 100% okay to surrender if the end is in sight.
Yeah, I mean, there's no particular reason to do that. He's not imminently going to die. But again, he's buying into Tudbak instead of upgrading, which I think I probably would have upgraded instead.
We have a hard-to-come-by land claim available to the highest bidder.
Pretty much all you can do at this point. He does have one or two advantages. He's got that teleportation and the perpetual motion that he got from those auctions. So, and of course, life support costs are fairly high for Tudbak, particularly the fuel. He's having to ship lots of stuff in, got the water there. He's turned most of those water pumps off because of the shipping costs, because fuel is so expensive. There are one or two reasons why Zorbaz could potentially at HQ5 make as much, if not more money than Tudbak in the late game.
Right, if he was at HQ5.
Yeah, if he was, and if there was a late game in this, which there probably isn't going to be, but you know, it's something.
Tudbak just needs to use some of his claims a little bit more efficiently. Yeah, probably having some fuel just to earn some money and keep those chems more profitable when they actually come back on. There we go, transitioning from farms into fuel.
Yeah, really needs to do that, and really needs to be optimizing this fuel as well. Maybe this oxygen too, even. Because there's a lot of money to be made right now. 320 for each of those tiles without any optimizations at all. So lots and lots of money to be made there. Ooh, it's a little bit of a painful black market use, isn't it? Just the single chem refinery getting blown up by Zorbaz. Not particularly too much value there, and Tudbak responds in kind by blowing up two of Zorbaz's electronics factories.
It would have been better on the electrolysis reactors, but probably a little bit of annoyance there by Tudbak, so it didn't select the target as efficiently as you might.
It's actually quite painful for Zorbaz to rebuild, because those electronics factories and those reactors in fact cost 40 steel each, so it's not trivial to rebuild those.
No. 70% of the buy for Tudbak on to Zorbaz, 71%. We will see the end to the game very soon, maybe even once this last chemical hack comes in, although Tudbak should be saving up chemicals instead of selling out right before the hack.
Yeah, I don't know quite what he's doing with that. With those chems, he's trying to sort of, I don't know whether he's trying to see if Zorbaz has a stockpile and just trying to sort of bait him into selling down or something like that, but as it stands he's not going to make very much money from this chem hack at all. He doesn't have a stockpile at all, so maybe just not willing to risk Zorbaz having any sort of a stockpile for him to be punished with.
88%, 90%, we will see our first king in Offworld Kings very shortly.
Yep, very shortly indeed. A pretty pointless uranium surplus going down from Tudbak. Zorbaz getting that single uranium tile in, but again, no real need to do that. Tudbak has the money, he sells everything down, he has the red button, says GG, and claims game number 1. He is the first of our kings in this King of the Hill tournament, beating Zorbaz in a reasonably well contested 1v1 on Ceres. It was never particularly close, but Zorbaz was always in the game, if not really threatening Tudbak in terms of threatening Tudbak's win condition.
Yeah, there's always the potential for Zorbaz to get back in and be a threat, but like we mentioned, not upgrading HQ5 was a big deal in this one, I personally think, because Zorbaz had enough money and bought all of Tudbak's shares, but then just didn't have any production behind it to do anything threatening.
Yeah, absolutely, and he did get those advantages. Those 2 patents that he got, I think, were worth something. The perpetual motion and the teleportation. Certainly, the teleportation was worth something. He had those carbon claims when carbon was quite valuable. He had all of that water, but he wasn't really able to do anything with because, as you said, he didn't really have the claims to put at his base to put the production that he needed down. And I think again, all of that goes back down to the found and to the fact that electronics was so massively painful for him in the early part of the game.
Some little things that you could criticize about Tudbak's game that Tudbak will probably have to clean up if he wants to remain king for any more matches. We can look at the charts and graphs and see the black market attacks did get a little bit closer in the end, but Zorbaz with 3 more attacks over Tudbak. Tudbak definitely had the money to attack Zorbaz a little bit more. And then I think particularly as a scavenger,
just going back to the black market, particularly as a scavenger, I think Tudbak really underused the black market quite a lot. He really should have been using it on cooldown. There were really powerful mutinies as well as the EMPs for him to do something with. He did get quite a few mules down, and I think got quite good value from those mules. He was muling water for a large part of the early game, but even so, I think he really could have done more with the black market cooldown.